Welcome to the Freelance Tribe. Here we talk with skilled freelancers about their professional journey, so stay tuned for real-life experiences to learn and actionable steps to take to improve your freelancing career. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Florian Gamper, an interim CTO, mentor, agile evangelist, and fractional leader who loves to inspire teams to unlock their full potential. So, welcome, Florian.
Hi, Yuri. How are you?
I'm super happy to meet you. After today's Top Tech Leaders podcast, when you shared a piece of advice to go to the dentist and explain that if a startup doesn't make it because of that hour when you'll be at the dentist, it won't make it at all. It just stuck in my mind, and it was amazing that you told that everything else you can buy except for your health, because usually people don't think about it. They're just work, hours, money. And then like, oh my God, I'm so ill. So tell me, when did you start putting your health first?
I learned that the hard way, so I didn't do it. So in my first startup, we were always like tight, and it was always hard, and there was always a deadline. And when I left after 3.5 years, my teeth were bad. So I started to go to the dentist, and it took me a year to get everything repaired. So half of them don't have nerves anymore, and that was something where I afterwards realized that's just not worth it. That's just something that I can't get back. And the startup still lives, but I think it had to do a lot with the idea of that I had to do stuff by myself. At that time, it was my first time of being a CTO, and I was not that good in delegating. So I tried to push everything and make it perfect and all that stuff. And in the end, every half a year going to the dentist and like repair stuff wouldn't have hurt anything. But just afterwards, I realized I completely ruined my teeth.
I can imagine. It's so crazy. But I believe that at the end of the day, you spend so much more time restoring them than you might have spent.
Yes. So afterwards, I was at the dentist for a year, nearly every second week. So around 30 appointments to get everything fixed again. So that was just crazy. And afterwards, you sit there and you think and say like, no, you shouldn't do this. And that hour of being there every half a year wouldn't have made any difference at all. But now it makes a difference for me personally as health from a health perspective, and that's just something where you don't think at first, and then afterwards realize, and that's why in the podcast I said, like, as an advice, what would you advise for first time founders? Like, go to your doctor if you have something, because that's something you won't get back.
So, did you incorporate any health activities in your daily life after that?
So I'm usually number one, I go for a walk, especially since we're doing a lot more remote. So when I'm in the office, I'm doing 8,000 steps running from meeting room to meeting room, from place to place. That's something you don't have anymore when you're remote. So every lunch, I go for at least half an hour to an hour on a walk, so that I at least once a day move. That's one thing. I'm doing 3 times a week sports. So I jog, I go to the gym. I'm working on my mental health, so I meditate, because that's something that is also very important, because it's also a part of us always thinking that it will be that way, and if you lose that, also hard. And especially in the remote times, you saw a lot of people that were struggling with it. And if you prepared for that, it's usually helpful. And as I'm freelancer, I'm only working 4 days a week, which is a luxury, I know, and I can happily I can afford that. But it's also part of me taking care of myself.
By the way, are you working 4 days in a row, or you have like additional weekend in the middle of the week?
No, 4 weeks in a row. So I tried Mondays. That's not good, because usually, no, everybody starts on Monday with fresh energy. And then when you come on Tuesday, you first have to catch up with what happens on Monday. So you're always behind over the whole week, and that's stressful. in the middle of the week is usually a day where you're not exactly sure what to do with it. So at least for me, it was like, okay, so now I had this once in a company where it was Wednesday, and that Wednesday was, yeah, so you had still everything in mind, and you thought about stuff, but you didn't write any email, or like, and so you write it down so that you don't forget it for Thursday. So that was also weird. And Friday, um, by experience for me, happened to be the best day for that, just because usually there are no big decisions on Friday. And everybody is already like, mindset is already a bit to the holidays, and not the holidays, the weekends, and it's usually a bit a slower day. So that day doesn't make any big difference as an interim CTO when you're not there. It also helps the teams to start incorporate more ownership and more independence, because there is one day where you're not there. And they can start to do their own decisions. So what I say to them, on Monday I want to have an email where you tell me this is what we decided today, and these are the reasons. And if I think it's fine, I will not even comment on it. It's so, and by that I start teaching teams on these Fridays usually how to make their own decisions.
So how it works for them?
Actually very good. So a lot of people especially when they come to startup for the first time, when they come from classic corporates, they're not used to do their own to decide by themselves. So in the beginning they're usually quite anxious. So today I'm deciding, and Friday, as it is a slow day, is a good day for that, because there is usually no big decision on that day. So it's more the small decisions where you can start with. And what I see when I work with the teams in that way is that they first start doing it on Friday, kind of becoming forced to by me. But then they start doing it on Thursdays too, because they get used to it. And then they're on a Wednesday, and when they're on Tuesday sending me that email, I know they're now independent. They understood what their objective is, how the customer relates to it, how that falls into line of the whole company. And then okay, this team is fine from an agility point of view, from an agile mindset point of view. They have understood what independence and ownership means, and they took it. And that's usually a very good thing. But if you're there 5 days a week, then you're always there to get back to you and ask if that's right. But like, not being there that one day actually helps them a lot into getting into this.
Now I know your secret how to have additional day off, because you just teach people how to make decisions, how to delegate, and you basically build independent teams, which is, I believe that it's amazingly from the manager's perspective. And also, you were talking about leadership, and on the podcast I mentioned you had a conversation about leadership. So let's connect it with health and personal state. So how does your personal state, how does your personal feelings affect the teams you're working with?
My personal feelings, I try to not put that on them as much as possible. So try to stay professional. So but nevertheless, I try to look after them. So if I see someone working too much, or you see that they struggle, always have an open ear, try to talk to them, give them this kind of advice to take more space, not to force themselves based on their beliefs that they have to do it, or that it will fall or something. I can teach a lot about like how to delegate and like what's actually your ball. Or do you know the term monkey management?
I heard about it. Yeah, when you try to do everything for them.
No, monkey management is the idea that like problems are monkeys, and they sit on your body, or they hang on your arm. And whenever someone comes to you, you can look after the monkey, you can play with the monkey. But the most important thing is when that person leaves, the monkey goes with him.
Okay.
so that you're not become the place where everybody is like putting the stuff that he does that they or that don't want to do, or that they it's too difficult for them at your place, and it becomes your problem. And that already helps if you understand that, because like a lot of people are very helpful and they often come into that stress because they say, yeah, I'm going to do this for you, or I'm going to help you on this. That's fine, but it should always be that in the end the monkey stays at the person that originally had the problem. And that's something that I try to teach a lot of people, is this kind of like, you have a job to do and that's your thing. If more comes at your place, talk to me and we have to figure out which one's problems it is. So, or if there is a capacity lag, but if you just take it and do it, then you will become overworked. And that's also, when you look from, again, agility, one of my favorite things, is not the purpose of it. So agility's idea is to get into a sustainable workflow. And that doesn't work if you're overworked all the time. And usually when you're overworked all the time, you're making a lot more mistakes. And that's also not good for the product. So I'm looking very curiously and after everyone in my teams that they get to a sustainable pace.
And talking about overworking, from my experience, like also as a freelancer, if I'm working on an exciting project, sometimes it's hard to stop. And sometimes I can find myself in front of the laptop at 10, 11 p.m. So how does it work for you? Do you have strong boundaries between working time and family time and your own time?
So I would love to say yes, no. No, the thing is, the difference between overworking, stress, and the other way is passion. So if you have a passion, that's fine. There is no you should stop with a passion. The thing is to figure out and to realize when it becomes stress. So when it's not fun anymore, when it's not your passion anymore, but something that you're kind of like feeling forced to do. This is usually where the difference is, and then it becomes stress. So I also sometimes sit here at 2 a.m. because I want to solve a problem or something, and that there is no bad thing with it. If I would sit here for like the next 3 months every night till 2, then something's wrong. Because then either I've took too much on my plate, or the something is not right, but you have to reevaluate the situation. That's just not healthy. It's the same when you're running to a deadline. Having crunch time is not an inherent bad thing. Sometimes it's needed. For example, especially in gaming, because there the deadlines are set by marketing and not by the product itself. Yeah, because you have to be on the holidays or something, because there's like only 2-3 slots where you can release, and then if that's done 3 months later, it is the next slot where it makes sense. But this has to be a very distinct period, and after that there has to become some time where you slack. So there are some charts and some studies. You can do crunch time for around a month. Then your productivity starts to fall because you become tired, and it falls back to the level where you originally been. So you're still crunching, but you're not faster than you were before. So it's no use, it's just stress. And when you then stop, that curve goes down, and the productivity you lose is bigger than the one that you gain in crunch first. So there is this kind of like, so we're going to do this for 2 weeks, and that's fine. And then what I try as a leader afterwards is to give them some of that time back and say, look, okay, for the next week, just go back after 6 or 4 hours. We just do half days so that we get back this crunch and get fresh energy, or they get a day free, so that they can sit back and relax and get something for that effort that they already put in.
And sometimes people are afraid that they will lose their speed of development. But what I hear from your experience, some periods of leisure or periods of not working is even more helpful.
So the best ideas you get when you go for a walk.
Okay.
Like sitting in front of the screen, staring at the charts is usually a way of like doing stuff, but the best ideas I do have when my mind can wander. So when I go in lunchtime, when I go for a walk for an hour, I have a ton of ideas. And then I come back and then I work on it. But like then saying, oh, I have this problem. I'm sitting there and I'm not taking lunch and I'm just have to work to make it finish. Usually doesn't help. Your mind gets blocked that way.
By the way, when you're going for a walk, how
Yeah.
it works for you? Do you listen to some music, to some podcasts, etc., or you just go out there and just be present in nature?
That depends. like every question, it always depends. So I have some podcasts that I listen to, but like when I struggle with a problem, I don't, because that is a distraction. Sometimes I do walking meditations if I have nothing to do. So podcasts and walking meditations kind of like are 50-50 in terms of just relaxing. But if I have a problem that I'm thinking of and that I try to solve, I usually try not to have anything that distracts me from just being there and looking at trees and seeing the sun or something. And then the back of your head is working while you're not actually actively thinking about it. And then like after 25 minutes, it's like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I totally agree. You always have your conscious part and
Yeah,
unconscious, and when your conscious is wandering around, unconscious is still working on
yeah,
problems to solve. And
exactly.
except for going to dentist, what
Mhm.
advice from your experience would you give to a freelancer who works, for example, 20 plus hours a day?
Get a higher day rate and stop doing it. So that depends on why he's doing it. So if he's working 20 hours a day, that's not sustainable. You can't go with 4 hours. I know hustle culture back and forth, but the programming is so if it's in programming, programming is a very, from a cognitive point, a very exhausting process. And you will get bad after some time. So if you do this for more than 2-3 weeks, you will produce bad code. Other word, avoid. So and you will have to repair that. That will put even more stress on you because like the stuff that you build is not good anymore, and you're not doing yourself a favor. Have a life. It's also good, like when you think like a lot of stuff that we do comes out of experience that we gain outside of work, of like something that we've seen, something that we listened to, something, a conversation that we had, new ideas. For example, if you talk with a colleague on lunch, like someone that has nothing to do with your job, just about like the things you do, gives you new ideas on how to tackle your problem. If you're just working 20 hours a day, you don't have that input anymore. And you're only making that whole thing up in your mind by yourself, and that's usually very hard.
Yeah, I totally get it. And Florian, I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question is, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food is mother's recipe. It's how do I explain that? It's, can I say it in German?
Most likely, but then you still have to explain it in English.
So it's kind of Züricher Geschnetzeltes, but without the mushrooms.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
would
it's
definitely Google it.
so it's chopped meat in small stripes, and then it has a creamy sauce with it, and I love it with mashed potatoes.
Got it. Florian, thank you so much for sharing your experience, and it's been such
Thank
a
you for
pleasure
having me.
to hear and learn from you. And thank you so much for listening. If you liked the episode, hit the like button on 5 stars and share it with your friends. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.